All right. So we've looked at the business. Okay, we've looked at the market. We've estimated the total addressable market. Also, we've tried to estimate what is the potential market they could acquire 5 years out from their various business segments. Okay, and we've also assessed the management quality of this company. Okay, now let's value this business using discounted cash flow methodology. All right, and so what I am going to do, okay, I would project their the three financial statements, okay, and estimate the free cash flow and then discount to the present and see कि कितना इस कंपनी का fair value है आज की डेट में, right? So I'll do that. So, but if you are someone who's not really interested into looking at the mechanics of valuation, okay, then you can perhaps just skip past the next few minutes. You could perhaps just go to the last 5-10 minutes of this video, but I'm not, but let me tell you, I'm not a SEBI registered analyst. Okay. All right. So, and this is purely an education video. All right. The purpose is that you learn how to analyze and, a business and value a business. All right. Okay. So let's now start valuing this business. All right. Now let's value this firm, this business. So as of close of business on 23rd Feb Friday, okay, the market cap of this company was 950 CR. Okay, that's what, and the P was 18. Okay, so itte pe trade kar raha tha. All right. Okay. Now let me go to the spreadsheet. Okay. See, what I've done is I've done some pre-work ahead of time. Okay. So I have, let me just move this up. Okay. So I have pulled in data. I've pulled in the financial statement, balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow from the past few years, and also pulled in the financials they reported of 9 months of as of 9 months from this FY24 this fiscal year. Okay, all right. और मैंने financial ratios भी उनके estimate किए हुए हैं ahead of time. All right. Okay. So see, this is, so if you look at these cost items here, employee cost. So अभी तक हमने क्या किया है? We have estimated the revenue. Revenue is what we have estimated. Now let's first estimate the cost. Okay. So P&L would be almost complete. After modeling the P&L, profit and loss, then we'll model the balance sheet. Okay. All right. And then last step would be cash flow. All right. So let's so for modeling the P&L, if you look at some of the financial ratios, employee cost. So employee cost abhi 17% se ho gaya 18.7. Other expenses. So they have a host of other expenses which they club it under the other expenses, like service charge, expense towards the cash executives on contract, bank charge, which is towards the cash deposit in their network cash management business vertical. Okay, so इनके other expenses बहुत सारे हैं. Okay, so वो overall other expenses 58% थे. It has increased to 64%, and the reason why both employee cost and other expenses have increased is because they are pouring into this new business segment of DBJ and also Ace Money ka acquisition. So related expenses, they have increased. They have provided more details on why these costs have increased this financial year, but they should reduce over time as they scale. Okay. And one thing more, it's important. See, this is a very high fixed cost business. Okay. This is a high fixed cost business. So if I go to the Q3, the earnings call transcript, let me pull that over. Okay. So if you read through the highlighted snippet here, okay. So their MD, he says that to optimize the network with a large number of additional pickup or delivery points on each of their existing routes, is the way that revenue is going to go, and that is going to give them operating leverage. मतलब क्या हुआ? Operating leverage का मतलब क्या हुआ? See, okay, पहले से समझते हैं. See, they have routes, right? जिसमें वो point to point pick up करते हैं cash and then deliver करते हैं. All right. Okay. So in that existing route, if they add more points, so the cost would remain the same, लेकिन revenue is going to increase. Okay, that is what he's saying. So it's going to give them operating leverage. So operating leverage क्या हुआ? See, this is a very high fixed cost business. When you have high fixed cost, okay, and then if you scale, if you grow revenue, if you scale, so your fixed cost mota more or less would remain the same, okay, but any additional revenue as you scale is going to add to your bottom line, is going to add to your profitability. Okay, so your margins would increase as you scale with high in a high fixed cost business which has operating leverage. Okay, so iska ye matlab hua. All right, so let's make use of this in our valuation. So and again I'll be conservative. Okay, तो अभी एकदम से इनका कॉस्ट बढ़ा है. I'm going to assume that's over a period of time cost धीरे धीरे कम होगा as a scale. Okay, all right, so perhaps cost would अभी इनका EBITDA margin कितना है? 24.5% था FY23 में, वो ड्रॉप हो गया 17% में. Okay, so I'm going to say assume that gradually over time EBITDA would perhaps hit again like 22-23%. Okay, जैसे जैसे ये दोनों नए बिजनेस स्टेबलाइज होते हैं और जैसे जैसे दे स्केल. So if you see what I have assumed, employee cost slowly gradually, by the way, anything in blue cells and blue text, blue cells is my assumptions, and in blue text these are like hard codes. Okay, so I have assumed कि employee cost and other expenses वो gradually reduce हो रहे हैं for both. Okay, so let's plug that in our P&L. Okay, and then estimate the new EBIT margin, new margin profile for this company. Okay, let me go to the P&L. Okay, all right, so first let me also pull up the revenue. By the way, one thing important, all these financial statements that I've pulled in, they are in INR million. Okay, because that's how they report. Okay, जो revenue estimate मैंने किया है, that is in CR, so I'll have to multiply it by 10. Okay, so let me pull my total revenue for FY24. Yes, FY24. Okay, मैं इसे pull कर लेता हूँ. Okay, and now my employee benefit expense, let me do that. I'm just making sure I'm getting recorded. Yes, my employee benefit experience, just I'm just linking. मैं link कर रहा हूँ बस, और कुछ नहीं कर रहा. Employee benefit expense times my revenue. Okay, and let me drag it. Okay, all right. Finance cost and depreciation we won't be able to model until we model the balance sheet. So let's leave these two items for now. Let's model the other expenses. Okay, so other expenses, this is 64.1% times their income. Okay, and let's drag it. Okay, all right, तो ये हो गया. Other expense फिर क्या हुआ आपका? other expenses, ये so total expenses ये सबका sum है, तो I'll just drag this. Okay, all right, profit before tax is your total revenue minus total expenses. ये भी हो गया. All right, अब tax भी मॉडल कर लेते हैं. Okay, तो tax का percentage, if I go to financial ratio, okay, so tax same 25.6% assume करके रखा है मैंने. All right, so let me, और मोटा मोटा उतना ही है, तो मैं ये लेके प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स से मल्टीप्लाई कर दूंगा. See what happened. Sorry. Yeah, I'll drag it. Okay, तो मेरा पैट, आई नो पैट अभी करेक्ट नहीं होगा, लेकिन एटलीस्ट लेट मी काइंड ऑफ स्लॉट द फॉर्मूला इन. ओके, तो पैट का फॉर्मूला इज योर पीबीटी, प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स माइनस टोटल टैक्स. ओके, सो मैं बट ड्रैग कर देता हूँ इसे. एंड गाइज आई कैन शेयर दिस शीट इफ यू गाइज वांट टू. I can. All right. Okay. Now, so our P&L is almost complete. Okay. The two things that we couldn't model is finance cost and depreciation amortization. So for that, we have to first balance the, for that, we have to first model the balance sheet. So let's go to the balance sheet. Okay. So here in the balance sheet, again, everything is in INR million. Okay. So pehla, what we have is the gross PPE or gross property, plant and equipment. Okay. So उसको मॉडल करने के लिए, if we go to the capex and working capital schedule, जो मैंने again I have built ahead of time. Okay, so gross PPE is this much, 252.3 million. Capex that they've said that they'll do this financial year 2024 is 22.6 CR. Okay, all right. उसमें से काफी ये लोग कर चुके हैं अभी, all right, in the 9 months. तो any which ways मेरे को let me use this information. Okay. So gross PPE to estimate gross. What happened? All right. Yeah. So to estimate gross PPE, I take the Purana PPE, gross PPE, and on that I add the CWIP, the capital work in progress last year, would translate into, would get added to the gross PPE this year. So वो add कर दिया मैंने. And then I also add the capex that they are saying they'll do this year. Okay. So I add all of that. I get this gross PPE. Okay. Up accumulated depreciation. This is actually less accumulated depreciation. Okay. Not just depreciation. Okay. तो depreciation पहले estimate करना पड़ेगा. Okay. So अभी वो 14-15% रहता है. Okay. So मैंने average ले लिया है 14.7%. तो let me estimate the depreciation. Depreciation is always estimated on your gross PPE. ठीक है. तो ये आपका इतना depreciation हो गया. Now I'll add it to my accumulated depreciation. तो पुराना depreciation लिया and then I add, okay, or rather I subtract क्योंकि it's negative. तो 125 plus 73 overall negative. तो इतना हो गया. All right. Okay. Now तो मेरा net PPE कितना हो गया? Net PPE is gross PPE plus this negative accumulated depreciation. This is my net PPE and this would flow in my balance sheet. All right. Okay. CWIP I'm assuming कि वो zero है. Nuances में नहीं जाते हैं. Okay. क्योंकि वो any which way that gets added to the PPE. Okay. All right. तो अब to estimate the capex for future year का capex they have not communicated, but if you look at the cash flow statement, if you look at their past financial statements, they don't do a lot of capex. Okay, they're very pretty like asset light on that regard. Abhi they did that capex because they did an IPO and using that money they bought a bunch of these vans. So this bulk of the 22.6 CR actually is going into the purchase of around 200 vans. Okay, some of them would be used in cash van operations. Okay, and some of them would be used in the DBJ business. Okay, all right. So since historically they have not invested a lot of done a lot of capex, so I'm going to assume that in the future years the capex would be depreciation of the past year. Okay, so for FY25 the capex would be the depreciation amount of the previous year. Okay, all right. तो मैं ऐसे उठा के ऐसे ट्रैक कर दूंगा. Okay? और capex और इसको ओके तो डेप्रिसिएशन नेक्स्ट ईयर के लिए मेरे को एस्टिमेट करने के लिए इसको ड्रैग करना पड़ेगा. yes. तो मुझे बस ड्रैग करना है. okay? तो अपने आप ग्रॉस फिक्स असेट आ गया. एंड capex let me drag it. Sorry, first let me drag depreciation. okay? अपने आप capex अपने आप हो गया. Okay, because मैंने already slot कर दिया था. Okay, so if you see capex in 2029 is equals to the depreciation that was done in the previous year. So my PPE using this assumption has been modeled. Okay, all right. Okay, and yeah, it's a good practice. It's a good practice to document your assumptions. Okay, time बचाने के लिए अभी मैं नहीं कर रहा हूँ. वैसे it's always a good practice that you document your assumption on the side. Okay. All right. And there is a way in which you could check if your capex assumptions they rhyme with history or they are reasonable. There is this gross fixed asset turnover, okay? So which is basically divide your revenue from operations divided by your gross fixed assets. That's how you get your gross fixed asset turnover. Okay, all right. So let me do that because we've already estimated the sales from operations. So let me just drag this formula. So if you see, this number was historically in the range of 12-13. Okay, Abhi this number has dropped to 6.5 in the 9 months of FY24. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. So based upon our assumptions, this number would increase to 7.5. Okay. So what it tells me is that our capex assumptions may be a little aggressive. Okay. We may have assumed more capex, okay, than we need to. So we can always adjust it, okay, later. Okay. All right. All right. So any which ways, okay, let's now, since you've modeled the gross fixed assets, the net PPE in the future, so we got to do two things here. Okay, first we got to link the depreciation amount, okay, with the P&L. So let's do that. Okay, मैंने link कर दिया. Let me drag it. Okay. And see, if you see, that's why our depreciation number seems pretty optically high, because we've been, again, we may be a little aggressive with our capex. All right. तो ये हो गया. अब दूसरा जो हमें लिंक करना है, वी गॉट टू लिंक दिस this capex, this net PPE with our balance sheet. Okay, so let's do that. मेरे को net PPE से मतलब है ज्यादा, तो let me, तो यहाँ पे गया, मैंने net PPE, okay, I just realized I didn't model net PPE क्या. All right, okay, that's fine. Let me drag accumulated depreciation, क्योंकि वो हमारा, and then let me drag net PPE as well. Okay, now let's go to balance sheet. Okay, so let's pull net PPE. Okay, capex and working schedule में गए वापस, ये link किया, enter, and then let's drag it. Okay, all right, so this is done. Capital work in progress वो zero रखा है, तो we don't have to worry about it. Okay, intangible asset छोटा number है. Okay, all right, तो उसको same रख लेते हैं. Let's not worry. अगर थोड़ा बड़ा होता तो we would have definitely modeled it as well. अभी लेकिन easy रखने के लिए, for the sake of making life easier, I'm just assuming the same thing. Okay, in fact, that's what I'm going to do for these 4 items as well. So these 4 items combined, this is 109.7, okay, million. Okay, and as per the latest reported numbers, this is 114. So it's on the same range. Okay, ये 112 जो आपको इन्वेस्टमेंट 112 मिलियन 11 CR का इन्वेस्टमेंट दिख रहा है, दैट इज ऑन द एस मनी, the fintech investment that they've done, right? Any which ways. So let me just reuse these Purana numbers. If you want, you can always model them based upon the revenue. Okay, so in fact, that is what you should do. Okay, but I'm just trying to make it simple for us right now. Okay, so the total non-current assets for us is the sum total of all of these. Okay, so let me do that. तो ये हमारा total non-current assets हो गया. All right. Okay. Now, now let's complete the remaining items in the balance sheet. So if you see, now we need to model the current assets. So what I've done is, in fact, for all these financials, all these line items, I've read through the notes in the annual report. You should do that for all the companies that you study. Okay, I've looked at the notes and I've pulled in some of the important notes here in column D. ठीक है, कि ये trade receivables में कि कितना receivable risky है, कितना impair कर रहे हैं, वो सब I've written. अगर ये नंबर हाई होता कि कस्टमर्स अगर पैसे नहीं दे रहे होते, okay, तो it would have been a cause for concern. अभी क्या है इनके लिए, क्योंकि since most of the customers are banks, so banks so their receivables, they are not in like jeopardy. They pretty much get paid. So the risk element come here receivables में. Any which way, similarly, I've noted down the key points for other line items as well. All right. So now let's model the current assets. Okay. So let me. All right. So here again, like I did in capex, working capital schedule के लिए for current assets and current liabilities both, I've pulled in the key items ahead of time. Okay. So agar if we talk about receivables, so 70 CR was the receivables last year. It has increased to 107 CR in the 9 months. Okay. All right. So days of sales outstanding was 72. Okay. All right. And abhi wo increase kar gaya hai 136 mein. So I'm assuming it will stabilize. Okay. As we complete the financial year. So 90 से 85 होके वापस 80 में हो जाएगा. And why I am saying 80? Because that as per the management guidance की typically 70 to 75 में it should hover around. So मैं थोड़ा हल्का सा conservative होके I'm taking it कि long term में should be or medium term में should be around 80. Okay, which was what there, which is pretty close to their historical receivable days. All right, and so let's model it. Okay, so if 90 is their receivable days, so 90 divided by 365, okay, times the sales from operations, which is this number here, FY24. Okay, and let me drag this. Okay, all right. In fact, if I lock the cell PLI 5 wala, then I don't have to get in that business of putting a formula again every time. So let me just lock this. I'm locking the row. Okay. अब मेरे को क्या करना है? For current assets, okay, in other current assets में, what I have done is I have clubbed in two items. I have clubbed in two items, which is yes, which is my other financial assets and my other current assets. So these two items, I've clubbed them together in that other current assets wala item in the working capital schedule. Okay. And again, I've put in notes on what these two items they mean. All right, here. Okay. All right. So let me go back to the work schedule. और यहाँ पे मैं इसको मॉडल कर देता हूँ. सेम थिंग, मेरे को बस कॉपी करना है इसको और यहाँ पे पेस्ट करना है, वो अपने आप 15 उठा लेगा. Okay. If you see, it is pegged 15. Okay. All right. So days of current assets outstanding 11 था, वो 20 increase हो गया है. So my assumption stabilized to 15, and then it should go back to historical number, which was around 10, 11. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So now this has been done. So let's complete our current assets का modeling. Trade receivables. Let me pull from here. यहां से मैं pull कर लेता हूं. ड्रैग कर देता हूं, काम खत्म. कैश और बैंक बैलेंस ये मॉडल नहीं करना है अभी. ये दिस वुड कम फ्रॉम कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट फ्रॉम सीएफ. तो ये जब कैश फ्लो करेंगे तो लिंक करेंगे. अभी ये दोनों अभी मॉडल नहीं करने. सो लेट मी जस्ट गो हियर, पुल इन दिस वैल्यू, एंड गाइस आई विल शेयर द शीट इफ यू वांट टू. ओके, सो यू कैन गो थ्रू इट and ask me questions, and also change the assumptions if you want. That's totally fine. All right. So हमने ये current assets भी हमने drag and drop कर दिए. All right. Okay. Now total current assets का फॉर्मूला को भी ड्रैग कर देते हैं. So that we have done. Okay. At the risk of repeating myself, these two items मैं इसको कलर कर देता हूं एक अलग शेड में. फिलहाल ये हम कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट से लिंक करेंगे, इसलिए अभी मैंने छोड़ दिए हैं. ओके. नाउ लेट्स कंप्लीट आवर एसेट साइड. नॉन करंट एसेट्स प्लस करंट एसेट्स, तो मैं इसको ट्रैक कर देता हूं. दिस इज डन एज वेल. लेट्स गो टू लायबिलिटी साइड. इक्विटी लायबिलिटी साइड में पहली चीज है हमारी टोटल इक्विटी. टोटल इक्विटी जो है वो कैसे मॉडल करोगे आप? यू पिक द लास्ट ईयर इक्विटी प्लस जो भी प्रॉफिट दिस कंपनी मेक्स, दैट गेट एडेड टू द इक्विटी. सो ये जो प्रॉफिट है FY24 का, ये ऐड हो जाएगा इक्विटी में. ऑलराइट. और डिविडेंड माइनस हो जाएगा. तो डिविडेंड हम बाद में माइनस कर देंगे क्योंकि दिस इज अ डिविडेंड पेइंग कंपनी, सो वी नीड टू मॉडल डिविडेंड्स एज वेल. ओके, एंड वी विल डू दैट व्हेन वी कम टू द कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट. ओके, तो फिलहाल मैंने मॉडल कर दिया, ऐड कर दिया प्रॉफिट, और इसको ड्रैग कर दूं तो सबके लिए हो जाएगा. ओके, लेट मी राइट कि मॉडल डिविडेंड ये रिमेनिंग है हमारा. सो मैं इस लाइन आइटम को भी कलर कर दे रहा हूं बिकॉज वी नीड टू काइंड ऑफ कम बैक टू दिस आइटम. All right. Okay. Now, going a step further, non-current liabilities. Non-current liabilities. See, non-current liabilities, जो है ना, so this company doesn't really take any debt. Okay, it's almost debt free. Okay, so I'm not going to like break my head. Okay, like we did when we were valuing Kowai. Okay, so इसमें let's just assume कि debt is the same. Okay, मतलब 8.8 million, मतलब not even 1 CR, honestly. Okay? 88 lakh, yeah. Okay? So मेरा total non-current assets कुछ इनका है ही नहीं खास. This is done. Again, keeping it very simple, guys. All right. Now, short-term borrowing, again, I'm keeping it same as last year. And अभी 9 months of FY24 केवल थोड़ा सा ही बढ़ा है. तो मैं last year का assume कर रहा हूँ कि in FY24 it will be same as last year. And it will stay the same throughout. Same thing for lease liabilities. और इसको मैं drag कर देता हूँ. And let me just write same. Because हमने यही assume कर लिया है. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's come to the trade payables, okay, and some of the other financial and current liabilities that they have. Okay, so let's go back to the working capital schedule. Working capital का मतलब क्या होता है? It's like the liquidity crunch, right? Current assets minus current liabilities is your working capital. तो current assets हम already model कर चुके हैं. Now let's model the current liabilities. Trade payables, इनके hardly कुछ payables हैं, hardly. Okay, तो मैं assume किया है कि 1.3 is the same as what they had in the 9 months of FY24, and it will increase slightly to 2. Okay, so it's hardly anything. Okay, so in fact, if I just use this formula, तो अपने आप आ जाएगा. Okay, so it's basically, and I've estimated this days of payable outstanding using sales and not using COGS. Okay, all right. तो मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? 1.3 divided by 365 times the sales from operation. That's how I'm estimating the trade payables. And let me drag it. तो ये भी हो गया. Okay, all right. And let me link it in the balance sheet. तो trade payables जो हमारा हो गया, मैंने दोनों को रो 49 और रो 50 कंबाइन किया हुआ है. तो let me just put it here. ये मेरा payables हो गया. Now the next item that we need to model is other current liabilities. So what we're going to do is we're going to club these 4 items into other current liabilities and just model one combined. Okay, and I've put in notes key as to what each of these items they mean. Okay, and they have described it in the note section of the balance sheet. Okay, and I recommend that you go to the note section for every company that you analyze. Okay, all right. Okay, so let me first model the other current liabilities. Okay, it's the same thing. You know the game now. Okay, all right. It's pretty high because they have a bunch of things here. They have payable to employees, creditor for expenses. They have gratuity payable. So they have a bunch of things here. Okay, all right. So let me just use that and link it. Right. So my non-current liabilities is done. Okay. So let me drag it. So my non-current liabilities is done. In fact, my total liabilities is done as well. Is NCL plus CL. Non-current liabilities plus current liabilities. मैं इसको भी drag कर देता हूं. And this is done as well. Okay. So my total equity and liability is, so let me total equity liability is total equity plus total liabilities. So let me drag this. Sorry. Okay. So obviously the balance sheet is not going to balance. So let's check. यहाँ पे we are checking if balance sheet is balancing or not. This is very important. ये asset minus liability है. Okay. तो ये asset minus liability. Okay. So let me just drag this. See, the balance sheet is not balanced. The reason is our assets are very low compared to our liabilities right now. And why is it so? Because we've not completed the cash flow statement. Okay, that's the reason why. Let's now model the cash flow. So for cash flow statement, for cash flow from operations, let's first pull the net income. Net income, आपका PAT. Let me pull that. Let me drag it. Yeah, all right. Depreciation. We have the depreciation as well. So depreciation, let's pull 73 from the P&L and let's drag it. For amortization, we can assume the same amortization as last year because we have not really changed our amortization modeling assumptions, right? So we've assumed the same intangible assets as last year. So let's just take last year. Yeah. All right. Now let's estimate change in working capital. Okay. So for that, let's go to financial ratios. Okay. And if you see over operational working capital here, current assets minus non-interest bearing current liabilities. Okay. तो हमने कैसे estimate किया है? Okay. Let's first estimate current assets. तो करंट असेट्स जो है FY24 का वो ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स प्लस अदर करंट असेट्स माइनस करंट लायबिलिटीज. So non-interest bearing, right? So we cannot include debt. Okay, so we can include, obviously we need to include payables. Okay, we need to include other liabilities, current liabilities as well. Okay, तो हमारा हो गया है. So this is our operating working capital. Current assets minus non-interest bearing liabilities, current liabilities. So let's drag it. Okay, तो हमारा working capital model हो गया है. Let's go to the. Now let's model the change. We have modeled the working capital. Now let's model the change in working capital. It's pretty simple. Okay, let's go to. I'll prefix a negative sign because we are talking about the change in working capital. If the working capital is increasing, so your more and more capital is getting stuck. Okay, so which would be a drag on your cash flow from operations. That's why you prefix it with a negative sign. Okay, let's go to financial ratio. यहाँ पे pull this number from FY24 minus this number from FY23. So if you see this working capital is increasing, so more and more capital is getting stuck as you're increasing sales. So this is a drag in working capital in cash flow from operations. Okay, so now here ho gaya, let's drag it. Okay, all right, the total cash flow from operations was sum of all these numbers. Okay, all right, now you would see our profitability and our cash flow from operations is pretty low this year. It's because this year, as you saw, that the profitability has taken a hit. Okay, and plus we may be a little and even in future years, okay, even FY25, the profitability, the cash flow from operations is still lower than the than FY23 because it's taking them a little while as per assumption to hit the same historical levels of profitability, right? Okay, now any which ways, let's model capex now. Capex we already have, so we just got to go to the capex schedule and just pull this capex number and prefix it with the negative sign because this is a cash outflow. Okay, so this is done. So this is our only cash flow from investing. So और कुछ जरूरत नहीं है मॉडल करने की. So this is done. All right. Total debt issued and repaid, it's zero for us because we are not assuming that more debt will be raised or repaid. Okay. All right. Now dividend payments. Yeah, that is something we need to model. Okay. So dividend payments were 22 CR, 23 CR last year. Okay. If I go to the financial ratio section where I'm maintaining all my ratios, dividend payout was as high as 36% last year. So let's assume 40% for the future years. Okay. All right. तो कितना हो जाएगा? 40% ऑफ पैट, प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स, पे किया जाता है। ठीक है? तो डिविडेंड पेमेंट कितना हो जाएगा? डिविडेंड पेमेंट हो जाएगा आपका पुल इन दिस रेशियो 40% माइनस 40%, क्योंकि कैश आउटफ्लो है, टाइम्स द पैट, टाइम्स द पैट, प्रॉफिट आफ्टर टैक्स। तो ये हो गया आपका डिविडेंड पेमेंट। So this as model. As soon as you model dividend payments, first thing you got, without going any further, you got to go back to the balance sheet and net out the dividends from your equity. Yeah. देखो यहाँ पे हमने लिखा था model dividends. Okay. So let's do that. Let's adjust this equity for the dividend outgo. Okay. We have done that. All right. So if you see, that's why our equity has dropped. Okay. Earlier, I think 5,000-6,000 tha. Now I think it's less than 5,000 now. Millions. Okay. Now let's go back to the cash flow. And yeah, let me remove this color here because this is done. Okay. All right. Yeah. So let me go back to the cash flow. So my cash flow from financing only is my dividend payment. It's nothing else. So my net change in cash is my cash flow from operations plus cash flow from investing plus cash flow from financing. Okay. Again, you see it's negative in FY24 for the reasons that we've already discussed. All right. Okay. Now this is done. Let's link it to the balance sheet. ये दो items जो अभी हमें कलर किए हुए हैं इसलिए क्योंकि we had to come back. तो कैश कितना हुआ? वो हुआ FY24 में कितना हुआ? कैश जो पहले था पिछले साल इन द प्रीवियस ईयर, कैश इक्विवेलेंट्स प्लस बैंक बैलेंस प्लस this net cash that would be generated this year. Okay? And then let's drag it. Previous year का कैश प्लस इस साल जितना जनरेट हुआ वो होता है कैश बैलेंस. All right, so we've completed the linking of our cash statements. Now let's check if the balance sheet is balanced. All right, so we see it's not getting balanced. Okay, and I had this intuition why it wouldn't balance. I'll tell you why it has not balanced. Okay, if you go to the cash flow statement, हमने यहाँ we assumed amortization same as last year without really modeling the intangibles. Okay, so we got to, if we strip this out, the balance sheet will balance. Okay, because it's a hard core. Yeah. So if we go back, see the balance sheet has balance now. Any which way, it's a small number. We could model intangibles if we want to. Okay, but it's a small number. Let's not break our head. It's like 5 million. Like it's 0 point. It's a very small number. ठीक है? तो हमारा ये मॉडलिंग खत्म हो गया है. ओके, और लेट मी रिमूव द कलर. ओके, थोड़ी ऑब्जर्वेशन. लेट्स टेक अ नोट. हमारा कैश, okay, cash has increased from 1,700 or 700 million, that is 170 CR to 170 CR to 365 CR. तो more than double हो गया है हमारा cash. Okay, so ideally they will earn interest. They'll put it in the bank and they'll earn interest in this cash, on this cash. तो यहाँ पे जो P&L है, see, we did not model the interest that they'll make on their fixed deposits, on the money that they put in the bank, but ideally we should model that. So उससे वो extra income generate कर लेंगे. That is non-operating income. Okay, all right. तो profitability ज्यादा हो जाएगी इससे than what we are estimating. Okay, all right. Okay. Any which ways, now let's since the linkage of the balance sheet and everything is done, let's value this, the equity of this company. All right. Now let's value this firm by estimating free cash flow to equity. Okay. All right. And free cash flow to equity, just to refresh your memory, is you start with net profits. Okay, net profit after tax, and from that you net out capex, you add back depreciation, you net out change in working capital, and you add back any net debt issues. Okay, so we have everything. It's just a plug and play of numbers right now. Okay, so let's very quickly drag the profit from FY24. What happened? Okay, all right. Okay, so let's just drag this number for FY29 till FY29 because this is till when we have estimated our numbers. Okay, and capex, we already have capex, so let's go to the cash flow statement and let's just drag this number from here. Let's pull this. So we have the capex. We got to add back depreciation again. We have that number. Let's go to the P&L, or you can go to the cash flow statement. That's fine. Okay. So here, depreciation we have pulled. Okay. So this is done. Change in working capital. Okay. So we have estimate change in working capital in the cash flow statement. This is the change in working capital. Okay. Minus 175 million. That is 17.5 CR in FY24. Let's track that. So this is done as well. There are no net debt. We have not really modeled any new debt issuance. So let's leave debt. Okay. So free cash flow to equity is just a sum of all these parameters above. Okay. All right. Let's drag it. Okay. So if you see, 540 was the free cash flow to equity in FY23. Okay. For the first 2 years in FY 24-25, okay, they are not generating a lot of free cash, and then they are slowly, generating free cash, and they are reaching around 91 CR or 911 million by FY29. Okay. All right. So, okay. Now for the next 5 years, okay, let's look at the growth. Okay, for estimating the free cash flows for the next 5 years. By the way, why next 5 years? We can always stop. Now, we can always stop. But the reason why I'm going 10 years, okay, see, because I believe, okay, that this business would grow. This is a growing business, given that they are foraying into diamond, bullion, jewelry, logistics as well. Okay, and there is potential in that market. Okay, all right. But I had no idea how to estimate cash flow, from that, from the overall business and from that business 5 years, beyond 5 years. So that's why I just restricted myself to 5 years. Okay. And now I'm going to make some assumptions to estimate growth beyond 5 years. So अभी मैं क्या कर रहा हूं, मैंने ग्रोथ रेट निकाला फ्री कैश का. Okay, so if you see growth rate 33%, 7%, 12%, 12%, तो मैं assume करूंगा कि next year 10%, फिर 9%. ये assumption है. You can change it if you want to. And then 6%, 5%. All right. Yes, since these are hard code numbers, as a convention, let me put them in blue. Okay. And so my free cash flow to equity would grow by these assumed growth rates. Okay. All right. So terminal year mein, okay, my free cash would be, okay, this number would grow by the risk-free rate. That's my assumption. So risk-free rate is 4.66%. Okay. And again, if you watched my video on Kowai, you would understand why it is lower than the 10-year government bond yield. Okay. All right. Anyways, not getting there in this video. This divided by 1 plus, see, for terminal growth rate, you assume using the Gordon growth model. Okay. So in the denominator, you have to do cost of equity minus the terminal growth rate. So cost of equity is 13% for this company that I've already estimated in advance. Okay. And then minus growth rate, terminal growth rate is 4.66%. So this is my terminal cash flow. All right. Now, let's estimate the present value of all these cash flows. So this free cash flow divided by 1 plus cost of equity times 1, and I'll lock my cost of equity just so that I don't have to retype the formula again and again. Let me drag it. Okay. All right. So my sum of my free cash flow, the sum of my free cash flow is of all free cash flow to equity is summation of all of these. So my sum of present value. So my so this number, okay, this is 948 or almost 948 million. That is like 950 CR. So this is basically very close. In fact, almost the same amount. It's almost the same as the market cap in which the company is trading at. The market cap at which the company is trading at. Okay. So if we divide it by the number of shares, this equity value. So the fair share value is around 89 rupees per share. Okay. और इतने में ही ट्रेड हो रही है अभी कंपनी. Okay. तो बहुत reasonably valued है based upon the assumptions that we have taken, and I believe that I've been very conservative with my assumptions. In fact, I will still believe that my capex is still very high. If I reduce my capex, okay, then I may generate more free cash than what I'm generating right now. And also, if they are able to drive more operating leverage, okay, then again, the margin may increase. Right now, अभी क्या हो रहा है? इनका जो EBITDA margin हमने estimate नहीं किया, तो ड्रैग कर लेते हैं, वो हो जाएगा. Okay. तो if you see EBITDA margin 24.5 था, वो अभी almost 23% हो रहा है FY29. Okay. See, if they are able to really leverage or drive operating leverage, then this will increase even more. They generate more free cash than what we have estimated if they are able to drive more operating leverage. Okay. And also if they don't spend this much in capex that we've assumed. Okay. All right. All right. So what is the fair PE, by the way? Fair PE again would be what's the कितना इन्होंने LTM TTM में business में कितना किया है? TTM मेरे को देखना है. TTM, हाँ, TTM में प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी इनकी 52 CR रही है ना. ओके. तो ये हुआ this equity value divided by 52 times 10 because सब million में है. Yeah, so fair PE obviously would be the same as the PE at which it is trading right now. Now, if this is indeed the fair PE, okay, if this is indeed the fair PE, okay, तो ये कंपनी कितनी बड़ी बन सकती है? Okay, all right, let's look at that. Okay, तो अभी जो market cap जो है, and again I'm just doing some market मोटा calculation. तो market cap जो अभी है, that is 950 CR. 950 इतना ये INR में है, सॉरी इन मिलियंस में, रुपीस मिलियन. ओके. तो ये कंपनी कितनी बड़ी, तो अगर if in case this company trades at 18, this PE, fair PE, 5 years out, okay, all right. So this PE times कितना अर्निंग है इनका, प्रॉफिट कितना बनाएंगे 5 साल में, 1050 मिलियन. ओके. तो इससे मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे तो इतना मार्केट कैप ये लोग प्रोड्यूस कर लेंगे, मतलब इतना मार्केट कैप ये लोग क्रिएट करेंगे if 18 is the fair PE, if this is the fair PE at which it trades at 5 years from now. Okay. तो बेसिकली मोर देन डबल हो जाएगी कंपनी का मार्केट कैप इन 5 years. बहुत ल्यूक्रेटिव साउंड नहीं कर रहा है, अगेन बिकॉज आई थिंक आई हैव बीन कंजर्वेटिव. लेकिन कितना CAGR कितना हो गया? आई एम जस्ट एस्टिमेटिंग दैट. So the CAGR growth rate, okay, because the company is almost like more than doubling, the CAGR that you'll get is 15% if you invest in this company based upon the assumption that we have taken. If indeed 18 is the fair PE. Okay. All All right. So just a couple of things before we wrap this up. One thing is that, see, in this valuation in this equity valuation, we have not included. We have also not included any upside, potential upside from the Ace Money acquisition that they have done recently. Okay, so वो भी included नहीं है. So again, we may be understating the value of equity. Okay, all right. And now, see, I'm not a SEBI registered analyst, so please don't take this as an investment advice. Okay, I only make these videos because my intention is to help, is to teach young aspirants or people who want to get into equity research and valuation, or people who intend to pivot to finance, to this field. That's why I make these videos. Okay, and if you like this content, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to share the spreadsheet with you, and you can change your assumptions, or use this to learn. Okay, all right. All right. So yeah, and if you like this content, and then please consider subscribing to this channel and share it with people who you think may benefit. All right. Okay. Thank you.